I wouldn't say every game was absolutely ridiculous, but the tendency of an MLS game to just go off the rails in directions you weren't expecting is beautiful, and it reminded me of the sports that I love, and it really filled that void for me.
Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from Vacaville, California. For the last time, I'm coming home, baby. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Calen Carr, Matt Doyle, David Gotze. What's up, boys? How's it going? Calen, that's the Airbnb. If I ever saw one, man, I can tell. Look at that nondescript lighting. Look at those mirrors.
Dude, this is my college teammate's Noah's crib. That's messed up. No, he went up to Seattle to spend time with family, and I'm back in Berkeley, close to my mom for a bit. But it's good to see you, Weebs. It's been. I mean, I know you are officially. This is your second show back, but for me, I only get to hang out on Thursday, so. Charlie got to spend quality time with you on Monday, but here I am, and it's great to see you, man.
You know, after all the praise from Dave's mom to Dave, I just feels nice to be appreciated a little bit and just saying. No, I'm just kidding. It's good to be back. Monday was like a breath of fresh air. To talk about
Weeby's really riding that. I pretended it was my mom who someone actually texted us they want me to host the show.
Really? I thought you were serious. I thought that was
my mom knows how to text. You think my mom's ever listened to an episode of this show or knows how to text our hotline?
That's fair. My mom, I think, does listen to most episodes of this show. So, hi, Mom. I love you.
So that's why you have to keep hosting. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
right. We got to keep Nancy Wiebe happy. No, it's great to be back. It's great to be talking about soccer. We have so much to talk about today. I mean, MLS is back. Final Portland Timbers, deserving champions. We will dig into that. We'll talk to Rodger Sherman of the Ringer, who you may have seen has sort of invaded our little nerd kingdom. Like, if you're mainstream and you decide that you're going to start writing about MLS, well, we're going to have you on the show, and we're going to challenge your credentials. So Rodger will jump on and explain how he fell in love with this tournament and with the league. We have the Conti Awards for the tournament. You know what those are. Yamil Assad fullback, the Ozzy Alonso D-mid, the David Accam MVP, et cetera, et cetera. Dallas-Nashville back on the field on Wednesday night. The game was meh. I'm just going to say that. Was not a game to remember, but there was something to remember, and that was Reggie Cannon standing up and making his voice heard after there was some boos during the national anthem, which the players knelt for. So we will hear from Reggie and talk about that, give you that quote. Transfer season, Matuidi's a TAM player. That's pretty dope for Miami. Mario Gotze might be with Cincy, et cetera, and then we'll hit the mailbag. Let's just get into it right now, though, with the big news of the day. St. Louis City SC. That is official, boys. That is the name of the team that's coming in 2023. Remember, they got pushed back 1 year because of the pandemic, which again makes sense. We got their name, we got their crest, we got their colors. The crest looks pretty dope. I like it. I just thought it was black and red, but it is more of a navy blue and red. They've also got the yellow to go with the flag, a little bit of a gray, which is cool. You got the arch in there. You got the Missouri River and the Mississippi River coming together. And SC stands for Soccer Capital as well as Soccer Club. That's pretty clever. Yeah, nobody thought of that, right? But seems like they're really going to lean into the city identity. Doyle, what do you think about this? The identity of the club, the crest, the name, what we have to look forward to with St. Louis.
I love the crest. I think it's distinct, which is kind of the point of having a crest. You don't want it to be cookie cutter and look like everything else. So I like just the shape of it is different. It has the arch and it has the confluence of the two rivers. So it has that local identity. I mean, we have a lot of red and blue clubs in this league, so I could have done with something maybe a little bit different in terms of colors, especially because I expect there to be a rivalry between St. Louis and Chicago because there is so many other sports. And so it's really similar to the Fire. But that's about my only real beef. And, I prefer, if you're going to have an SC or an FC, I always prefer SC. I'm going to consider it soccer club, but if they want to say soccer capital as well, that's fine by me. They've earned it over the past century. It's cool. I'm looking forward to St. Louis 2023.
Yeah, I like the arch. I mean, I think there's a lot of different things you can do with the arch. It's a nice look and yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm more excited about the club coming on. And when you look at basically, the history of the sport in this country, it would and the rapid expansion of MLS, if you didn't have St. Louis involved, it would feel like a huge miss.
Is that because it's the soccer capital?
That's woven in. I like that. Yeah, and I mean, I've just played with so many guys and against so many guys from, whether it's Noonan or Twellman or Bruin or Ralston or my coach Kevin Grimes going back, and just so many different people from St. Louis that have come and had, fantastic careers, still a big part of our sort of the fabric of American soccer culture. So I think it'll be really cool to go check it out. And yeah, Chicago, that's definitely going to pop off because they've got, in every sport, some back and forth happening there. I think it's cool. I'm excited.
I was waiting for the Brad Davis klaxon there from you.
With Brad.
Because every time I was like, Calen's he's going right to the well. He's going straight to Brad Davis. Yeah, look, we needed St. Louis City SC. Sorry, got to start getting in the habit on that one. Just from a historical standpoint, but also from a regional standpoint, Sporting Kansas City and the Chicago Fire have kind of been like floating around without a true rival. And I think it makes perfect sense for both of them, not just in like, oh, you're trying to manufacture a rivalry extra time, but also just in the sense of proximity. Like we used to drive to St. Louis all the time from Kansas City. It's easy. You're going straight across the state. There is a real rivalry between sort of those cities, those regions, those places. It goes all the way back to, some baseball stuff and George Brett and everything else, but it's big. It's within the region. It's sort of defined there. So I think that's cool. And then the same thing goes for Chicago. I'd like to see almost like a triangle between them. I don't know how it would happen and how the breakdown between West and East will work. But I like the logo, Doyle. I think it's cool. They got the arch in two places, on the top as well as within. I am very curious to see what they do within their jersey, though. How do they sort of honor their history? Is there like a checkerboard pattern you can go to that would like sort of the history of like immigrants from the Balkans, for instance? Is there something else you can go with that can be distinctive? Because these are colors that other teams have within the league. I know you can't always go pink and purple and like switch things up, or turquoise or whatever it might be. But I think that's the next step, is to see that visual identity on the field, on the jerseys, in the way that you're going to see it week to week, day to day in Major League Soccer.
Just go 1950 World Cup jerseys. Like, just go with it. Just go long sleeves, old school collar. That's the dream. That's what it should be. I'm putting my hat in there. St. Louis, you can steal it if you want. I don't even need royalties. I just want one free jersey, and I'll put it up in the back. The Kansas City one just fell. That is the radiator of St. Louis right there. Boom. It's all happening.
Just so everybody understands, the 1950 U.S. World Cup team, which beat England, is one of the great shocks of all time, considering that they were mostly semi-pro players for the U.S. About half of that team was from St. Louis. So, yeah, I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense, David. Look at you brainstorming, giving out free IP all over the place.
I will also throw this out there.
I don't get paid. I just here for everyone.
If they want to have a third kit that is St. Louis Steamers, I'm here for that all day, every day. Give me some Steamers gear. I will rock that all the time. All right, let's get to the MLS Back final.
Any early predictions on the manager?
Oh,
Taylor Twellman.
No, he's not going to do it. No way.
Ralston? I mean,
Ralston's a good one.
Noonan's out there.
Yeah, Noonan's a good one. I feel like they will. It feels to me like they will go with that sort of local flavor because of what the history means and because of what it means also to the ownership group. But ultimately, you got to hire the best man for the job. There's going to be a lot of people that want that job. I don't know. TBD. I don't got any.
They're a few years too late on the Tim Ream, Ibisevic, DP double to start the team. Probably going to be more just contract signings at that point, but maybe the next St. Louis star. I guess Josh Sargent. Bring Josh Sargent back for the launch of the team.
401-206-0MLS, extra time at MLSsoccer.com. If you're in St. Louis, tell us what you think about this identity, this crest, this name. Who would you want as a manager? What they should build around. Hit us up. Let's talk MLS's back final. 51 games, 35 days. It was an absolute sprint. I spent most of it just rocking a baby on a couch. It was a pretty good experience for me. 3 of the 4 of us on Monday picked the Portland Timbers. 3 of the 4 of us are right. I appreciate, Dave, that you went with your heart. My heart was with the Lions. My heart was bleeding purple. Didn't happen for them. 2-1, 2 set pieces. A little goal from Mauricio Pereira for Orlando brought them back, but they were not able to hold on to this.
So it's 2 nice set pieces for the team you picked, but it's just a little goal for the team that I picked.
Don't even worry about that goal. Don't even worry about that goal. What did you think of the game? What'd you think of the occasion? What'd you think of the emotion, Dave? I mean, people said this thing didn't matter. I don't think you could tell Diego Valeri or Gio Savarese or any of the guys on that field that it didn't matter. They showed that it did.
Sebastian Blanco, for sure, definitely did. No, it had the emotion. It had the pop. It had the energy of a final. It also kind of played out as one, which is you had Orlando come out really strong, but then there was a while where it didn't matter what it looked like. I'd say for Portland, I don't think it mattered what it looked like at all. It was about winning. It was a one-game final, and you kind of felt that throughout a large part of it. But you saw the frustration for Chris Mueller when he came off the field after starting this tournament so hot, the way it's ended, how hard it's been. And I think there's a level of that that's fine, right? If teams push focus onto him, that allowed Nani to be isolated individually and create opportunities. None of that happened for them, except for the goal. When Pereira made the run, I thought Williamson did a good job of covering when Chara had to go out wide and help and assist, and Laria as well in that starting lineup, doing that part of his job. And then, set pieces. The first one for sure, it's a beautiful header from Luis Mabiala. Weeby's going to try and, attack Pedro Gallese.
I'm not trying to attack Pedro Gallese. Come on, man. In a final, it was within his body shadow. His footwork looked a little off to me. Maybe I'm nitpicking, but that's what you do in a final. Every little decision, every little movement matters. It was a good header, but I don't know. I think he'll watch that back and say, "Damn, I wish I would have got that."
The matchup to have Mabiala on Moutinho is
exactly
not really where you want to be in that situation. But when you're talking about experience, right? And that was kind of the edge that I gave Portland going into this one. That's how it manifests itself. It's in those small little details. Even when you look at the way Nani failed to clear his lines and push up on the set piece for the second goal. Look, you're not going to question Nani's experience, right? But you would say that like the sort of learned experience as a back line and working with a group in knockout formats, and the trust that you have to be able to give to. I felt like he lost the plot there and went rogue and was like, I'm going to save the ball off the line if it happens. But realistically, you have to trust your goalkeeper that he's going to make a save, push up like everybody else. And there were just a couple small margins like that with the matchup on Moutinho and then Nani failing to push out that Portland got the better of.
I think you can say for sure that the Houston Dynamo early 2010s, they would have made that play. Dom Kinnear's boys, they make that play. They're pushing out. Not even a question. Knockout rounds, yeah, for sure.
It's never a good sign when you have, a over $10 million DP standing on his own goal line. It's just, you should never be in that position ever. Just push him up and leave him up by the center circle and just let him wait for the counterattack. Sometimes it's a good thing when your best players track back, and then sometimes it's not.
It was a good thing for the Timbers. We saw that from Sebastian Blanco when he wasn't really impacting the game in the first half. Doyle, in that first half, I thought Oscar Pareja really he had it sort of figured out in a lot of ways. He really took the counterattack away from the Timbers. They weren't doing much, and Orlando did what they did most of the tournament, which is had the ball, pinged it around, just didn't really create chances. What'd you make of this matchup between Savarese and Pareja, how it played out in the game, and then ultimately Timbers getting the edge?
I think a lot of it went how I expected it to go in terms of what Orlando have done throughout this tournament, which is use the ball to sort of pull teams apart. And they did have moments doing that. Portland were really good with their tactical fouling, really good about sort of destroying the game. And one of the things that has made Diego Chara over the years has been his ability to not necessarily win those moments, but not lose those moments, right? So, like, if you have to commit the foul, then you commit the foul. If you have to take the yellow card, you take the yellow card. And that, I think, threw Orlando City off. And there's just a difference between the way games are officiated in a group stage and in a regular knockout game and in a final. And Portland, part of the experience that they have was knowing how to take advantage of that. And then the other thing is what, I think I said on Monday's show, Portland are just better on set pieces. They're just like Orlando City's pretty good on set pieces. Portland have been devastating on set pieces throughout this entire tournament. And they got 2 set piece goals to win in the semifinals, and they got 2 set-piece goals to win in the final. And for all the talent that they have, for as well as they've played in a lot of ways, I think they're a much better team than they were at any point last year. They're much more attractive to watch. They're still devastating on the counter. For all of that, so many of these games come down to set pieces, and that's what Portland were able to do, and that's why they were the champions. And Gio Savarese, the entire team, deserves a ton of credit for it.
Yeah, look, in a sign of the times, they got champion face masks. In a sign of the times, you saw at the end of the broadcast them running to the video board to celebrate with their fans. Before we get to what it maybe meant for Portland, just a quick aside, because you mentioned Diego Chara. Is there any hit of a red card there on that elbow? I mean, there was extension. Like, as somebody who does instant replay, the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, we would lead the video with this. And Bobby and I would argue about this until the end of time about whether that was or was not. And probably I would say close to a red card, and Bobby would say toughen up. Like, did Diego Chara get away with one there? Because he got a yellow later on. He didn't get a yellow for that, but he could have been off in this match.
You've seen that given as a red.
For sure.
Yeah.
You've seen that given as a red now, and I prefer yellow. I like that. You want to see teams stay, full men on the pitch, but you've definitely seen that given. Now anything kind of up and around the head, above the shoulders like that, especially off the ball. Or was it, did he have the ball? He sort of passed it on.
Yeah, he had just passed it on, and
Okay.
the elbow came after that. I mean, by the rules, it's supposed to be a red card, but we all know that's not a red card in a final.
Yeah.
Portland's been in finals.
There was a little message for Pereira.
Yeah,
it was
because
like, hey,
Pereira had actually been getting the better of him
Yeah.
to that point.
He decked him earlier
Yeah,
in the
Which
game.
you
Like,
don't
he
see.
went in on Chara.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
yeah. So it was an awesome game. It was everything that you want to see from a final. Obviously, Orlando City fans disappointed, but I would be coming away from this summer so hyped if I was an Orlando fan because of the way they played, because it's not only Nani and Pereira, the DPs, but younger players like Mueller and Sebastian Mendez, and of course, João Moutinho and Juan. They all played so much better in this tournament than they had previously. Both of these teams, we're going on the regular season now. Both of these teams, I'm not going to say top tier, absolute favorites, but would anybody be shocked if they were, holding another trophy 4 months from now? I don't think so. And speaking of holding the trophy, one of my favorite parts of the entire tournament was the fact that when they did the trophy presentation and the lift, it was Diego Valeri, the captain, lifting the trophy as opposed to the owners lifting it. I think that is a fantastic decision by the Timbers and by the league office, whoever made it. Not to say that Merritt Paulson, you can see he was pumped and everything, and he eventually lifted the trophy, but it should be the captain who lifts the trophy first, whatever trophy it is that's being won. I thought that was a great touch of class from all involved.
Agree. Okay, before we get to Orlando City, because I have in the rundown here, what should we actually expect from them the rest of the way here? Because Nani had a great quote, and I'll read that in a second. There was a lot of argument. We put it out there on the show on Monday and talked about what this means, this title, and then we put it on Twitter, and people just went crazy for it. A lot of people saying it means nothing. A lot of people saying it means plenty. A lot of people saying it's just, hey, this is a situation we're in. It is what it is. It is a major championship. What should the Timbers think about this in their history? Like, where does it occupy in their long and storied history that is not just MLS? It is so much more than that. It's certainly not MLS Cup. It certainly would not be a Champions League win that nobody has done so far. I'm not sure it's a shield. But Caleb, I'm going to come to you on this one because I want almost like the players' perspectives. I think that trickles down to the fans a little bit. Like, what would this mean to you?
Oh, man, that's so hard to even compute because I just there's a lot of times where I feel like I can put myself in the position of players, but in this circumstance, looking at, what they've gone through, going to Orlando and all this, it's kind of hard for me to really make a parallel. But I think, for those guys, and I think for the club too, we've seen some of it is a volume thing. So it's like, if you want to be considered one of the best clubs around, you want to win as many trophies as possible. So it's not just the supporter shields for LAFC. They need to get the MLS Cup. Or it's not just the Open Cups for Seattle. They need to get the MLS Cups, and it's not just MLS Cups. They need to get the CONCACAF Champions League. And so it's I'm not saying that this is in that group, but to earn respect and to be seen as a top club. Now we've seen Portland continuing to show up in these top in the top of conversations. And sometimes I almost feel like we still count them out a little bit and we don't put them maybe in that top class or top tier. But when it comes to knockout tournaments, and I think that's partly because they haven't been up and around the Shield, which is, I think, from a player's perspective now, that like that's taken on such a bigger emphasis than it had in the past. Not saying it's
about to come out as a Shield truther in the middle of this.
No,
yes.
Whoa!
No.
Look, we didn't consider them to be the top of the heap, the top class, because they don't compete for a trophy every year. They had Diego Chara and Diego Valeri since 2013. During that time frame, they had missed the playoffs more often than they'd won an actual trophy. So right. for Portland to get this, which I think is honestly, I think it's obviously below MLS Cup and the Shield, but I do think it's a cut above US Open Cup or Canadian Championship.
Whoa.
I do.
The Open Cup with 100-year plus history and this thing just started from, out of a pandemic.
There's a longer debate to be had about that, but I would say that all 24 teams who were at this tournament did everything in their power to try to win it, and you don't see that with the Open Cup every year with MLS teams, which is not to say that the Open Cup is unimportant. I love the Open Cup. I consider it a major trophy. I think I consider this a step more major than the Open Cup.
I would say it's more difficult to win. You're probably right there, because just so many more games. I won the Open Cup in Chicago with, we played 4 games at home, I think, or 5 games at home, won them all. It was awesome. It was, we deserve a ton of respect. It was a proud moment for me and the club. But the what you had to go through to get this tournament, you cannot say enough about that.
I would also say, Weeby, you started by saying Portland Timbers, not just MLS, right? A long history.
Yeah.
This is a club who've changed names. They've changed stadiums. They've changed leagues. Like, this is a very North American championship because people have won things that don't exist anymore. People won multiple things. They're the only ones to ever win it. People played in things. Other teams dropped out. There was 60 teams in the country. Then there was 10. Then there was amateur teams and pro teams. So it's a very North American trophy. And, we've talked a lot about the history of MLS clubs. You go to DC United Stadium or their office, they've got trophies in there I've never heard of. And they're happy about it because they get to put silver things in their office. So the Portland Timbers get that no matter what. But I think to Doyle's point, there was a level of competition. It was a scene tournament. It was a tournament with high-level investment players. Like, you compare it to Open Cup and the difficulties. You don't have Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver in Open Cup. Those are 3 big teams with, great histories that are coming into this competition. So it'll stand, I think, pretty strong, and they'll be the only Cascadia team to have ever won MLS's back. I'm pretty sure they'll enjoy that.
Yeah,
but I do want to say, I don't think this is the last time we'll see an MLS's back tournament. I do think that the league is going to figure out how to work this into the schedule at some point, because it was too much fun. There was a lot of skepticism about it at the start, but by about the 3rd game, it seemed like there was a lot of buy-in among the fan base. And now it's just a matter of figuring out logistics and how to make sure it works economically. But there does seem like a hunger for it amongst MLS fans.
Look, I just pray that this is the last time we see it in these circumstances,
Correct.
Right? In the middle of a pandemic. And that is part of it to me. That's part of it to me. Yes. Repeat that over and over and over. Is that it wasn't just about the competition on the field, which is really the basis of it, but it's also about the sacrifice that the players made and the coaches made and everybody made to make it happen. Like, it's such a one-off thing. It's something we'll never forget. Mostly Anders. Right. Shout out to producing Anders, who's on a plane now back from Orlando. We'll get his thoughts on the bubble maybe on Monday. But, you heard Luis Mabiala after this saying, like, his son has been calling him crying for 10 days, saying, "Daddy, come home." That they really had to give up a lot. There was an emotional weight. There was a medical aspect, of course, for every single one of these guys too. The anxiety of being tested every single day. And yes, there were negatives for weeks and weeks and weeks, and that was a huge storyline and positive. But you still have all these weights on you as a player. And then to go out and perform and to get past 23 other teams, ultimately, I mean, again, like I said on Monday, I just think it's so disrespectful to try to minimize not only the accomplishment, but the sacrifices that those guys went through to make this thing happen.
Every person I talked to after they won a game and you were like, hey, congrats. They were like, it's awesome. It's a little weird because now we're here longer. And it was like this catch-22 for everyone. And I agree with you in that I don't think we saw a lot of that on the field. And that's a credit to what these players were able to do to compartmentalize that, to push through it. And everyone associated with the clubs for, making them feel comfortable and confident in these moments. We've already seen the NBA hasn't been in theirs as long. And the Phoenix Suns did a great thing with their fans. And LeBron James already tweeting, I miss my family. Like everyone was kind of all over the place. And I don't think that came out on the field. And I think that deserves a ton of respect.
It was hard. But Uncle said that's for his family. He's bringing the dollars home. His wife and his children had to endure without him. And, that's important. They also qualified for the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League, did the Portland Timbers. They're the first team in, I believe, here. And we'll see how they do in that. I think they're better suited than Orlando City to have success in this tournament. And I cannot wait to see those games in Portland, in front of that fan base, we hope, assuming the world gets back to somewhat of a normalcy, safely, whatever it might be soon. But look, go ahead.
No, it has to be said, Portland showed their depth in this tournament. That was one of the reasons they were able to win. They have key pieces that maybe they can't live without, but they could bring Valerio off the bench. Williamson stepping in means they have Paredes off the bench. They've got options at fullback.
Needs
They've
to go
had competition
a DP forward. Plus
right.
Mora.
And Mora. They have competition at goalkeeper, and Yimi Chara didn't even play in like half these games. So if you want a team to win CCL, that's a huge necessity. You have to tip your cap to them. They're now in that top tier for depth of roster in MLS. And that's one of the keys for going deep in CCL, and they have that.
All right, let's get to Orlando City here. But first, I just want to throw it out there. For those of you who haven't been paying attention to what CONCACAF is up to right now, they, of course, announced details recently about all these suspended club competitions. Kicked the can a little bit on CCL, but LAFC's official team store put something out with a customized Vela jersey that said October 20th to be back. So I don't know that that's going to happen, but I'm just saying maybe that could happen. But CONCACAF did float that they might try to get all the 11 matches remaining in 2020, the quarterfinal stage, on in a centralized location in one city. So just let us know. We'd like to talk about this, but we don't have time today. What city would you want to see that happen in? Would it be LA?
Honduras. What? Vida, Honduras.
I'm in.
Vamos,
Done.
Vida.
Vamos. All right, let us know what you want to see there. Orlando City, what'd they prove? Here's what Nani had to say. Quote, let's be honest, we must accept that we're not the same team as before. You all know that. You saw our games. You saw this final. You see the way that we've been playing and the way every team who plays against us behaves against us. I'm so happy to be on this team with this coach and with this staff. Yes, Oscar Pareja is the coach of the tournament. We don't have time to debate that. I don't think it's debatable. When you hear those words from Nani and you consider the history of Orlando City in this league and think about the future that they're trying to create, what stands out to you, Doyle?
That he's right. That it's not just, they battened down the hatches, made a big signing, and were a better team because of that. They played the best soccer in the tournament. They smothered LAFC in that quarterfinal win against, they held LAFC without a shot for an entire half. Nobody's ever done that before. And then when LAFC came out in the second half and tried to just press the hell out of Orlando City played through it. And they got through, and they were the better team. And like I was saying before, it's not just, okay, Nani is rested now, and it's a different sort of format, so he's going to be better. It's that Oscar Pareja started getting better performances out of the young players as well. And you've seen what Oscar Pareja has done with FC Dallas. I mean, remember what he did with Colorado in 2 years. He changed that team, which obviously snapped back to something worse after he left. But his ability to integrate and to coach up talent, his ability to get them to show it on the field, it was impressive. Like Orlando City, after 5 years, became must-watch soccer for the right reasons. And I don't think anybody saw it coming this quickly.
Expectations. Because look, MLS is back. We talked about it. It was a weird Bizarro world scenario. And that Bizarro world continues, obviously. But Nani says they've changed, Calen and Dave. So who has if you have strong feelings, let them out. Like, what should the realistic expectations be?
I would just say to what Doyle was saying in the first two names or things that triggered in my mind, where he said this wasn't just a big signing and playing hard, was Chicago Fire when Schweinsteiger first got there and they made a bunch of moves, and DC when Rooney got there. And there was a ton of energy to those projects, and that was high-level players. There wasn't a true identity to the two clubs, though. Nothing had really intrinsically changed except for a few signings. This feels different. Orlando feels like a team that knows how they want to imprint themselves on a game. And in MLS, if you do that, you are already competing for a playoff spot, no matter who's on the team. And then they have that high-level quality. Pereira just turned 30, so I think he's going to be a guy who can perform for you for a couple of years. You have Nani as a high-level player now. There are rumors out there that they can upgrade at center forward, at least short-term, at a Liga MX, and I think Oscar Pareja can help them find those guys. I think Leo Ramos was the one rumor, but it seems like a lot of the pieces are for real and the ideas in Orlando exist. And so it's not just on Nani's shoulders, and therefore it's something that you can replicate, and they need to take this momentum and play well. But I don't think it all falls on, well, we had a good month, we have to feel good going forward. They know who they are and they have a level of belief.
Also, it's beautiful for them with these expectations that are now there that haven't really been before, that there are more playoff spots. They've never done it, and now they have like more of a, the runway is there. Even if they struggle a little bit or they're still trying to find it, it's like, 16, 18, whatever it is of 26, I think it's 18, are going to be in the playoffs. And if they can get there, they've shown in knockouts, they can absolutely do it. But this isn't, Calen, this isn't Orlando anymore, although I kind of think they should embrace that. It's something changed, and it's a beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't the signings of the big players, because they've kind of always done that, right? They had Kaká, who's one of the biggest players in the world, and they had Nani last year, and Nani was good last year. I think he had 12 goals and 10 assists, and even Pereira, he came last season as well. And we're just starting to see the best of them. But yeah, when you go and you look around the rest of the team, upgrading at goalkeeper, Galese, I think, has been really good, and then they've got Juan and Moutinho on either side, and then Chris Mueller as well, who's been there as well. But it's really been the way they fit these pieces together. And the way they play, Doyle hit it. It's really exciting. It's entertaining. They play through the middle, and then they start to shift you from side to side, where you overload on the right-hand side, and you're looking at Juan coming up and just flying down the flank, and then all of a sudden Pereira picks his head up and finds that sort of lofted switch to the other side. And next thing you know, you've got Nani faced up one-on-one, and then Moutinho just flying down the left side. And it becomes a really tough proposition, the way they kind of like drag you all over the place. And then they can play up the middle if you want to go that way too. So I think this club I'm going to be interested in watching them this year to see if they can not just be in the playoffs, because I would expect them to be in at this point, but can they actually contend at the top of the East? Can they get and be in those, in that range of, NYCFC, Philly, Toronto, that sort of upper echelon of teams? So I'd add Atlanta to that list.
I was gonna say, ooh, that was like I was just about to burn.
Yeah, no, you're adding Atlanta. Columbus is in first in the East.
Oh, Columbus, of course, yeah.
Show some respect.
Sorry. But there are some things from this tournament where you're like, all right. And at first, I was kind of like that with Orlando, where I was saying, okay, yeah, nice moment, Cinderella story. But over time, it's just how much more do you need to be convinced? And the LAFC one, to me, was the kind of the big. That was their big win, and then they followed it up. So, I think this Orlando team has a lot to look forward to. And in some ways, it's kind of like that initial stuff I was talking about with Kaká in those early days, where they had these expectations, but they were just not really real. Now they have the big star, similarly with Nani, but then they have the pieces around it that make it work. So it's a little bit more of like coming to fruition of what they wanted to be from the start.
Congratulations to Orlando on the run. Of course, they would have liked to have that sort of crowning moment. It didn't happen for them, but we expect a lot going forward. Big congrats to the Portland Timbers. Second championship for them in Major League Soccer after that 2015 MLS Cup. The Should I call it the 2020 MLS is back tournament? Since
I think so, yeah.
The 2020 MLS is back tournament champions, the Portland Timbers. Congratulations to them. All right, those are our thoughts on the MLS is back final. Let's get the thoughts of a Johnny-come-lately to these parts. That's the Ringer's Rodger Sherman. You may have seen his article over on the Ringer. He fell in love with the tournament, watched the whole thing, enjoyed the absurdity, and it's an AT&T call to the field. Let's take a listen. All right, let's change directions a little bit here. And as all of you know, in our little community, our little internet haven, that is soccer Twitter and specifically MLS Twitter, we see outsiders and we wonder, how did they get here? And Rodger Sherman is here now from the Ringer. And Rodger, I don't know if you're an outsider, but I have not seen you in our parts. All right. I have not seen you tweeting about midweek MLS games in the past, but now I see just praise and adulation and real energy around the league that we love. What's going on, man?
Did I walk into a thing where our outsiders are good, right? This is a good thing, right?
Yeah, no, we're actually happy about it. We're happy about it, but we're questioning you too.
We've been burned before. We don't want to get too close if we're going to get sent away later.
You're happy about it, but it's always weird when new people start carrying a thing that you've cared about that's your little niche. I'm a sports writer. My job is writing about other sports. My job is writing about football in the fall, basketball in the spring into the summer. And this year, all those other sports went away. And I've never had the chance to get into MLS. I've always seen the games, I've like turned on an AFC game and like it looks awesome and they're scoring 5 goals. And I'm like, this seems like a thing I could be interested in, but never before had every other sport on earth disappeared simultaneously. And when the MLS is back tournament was on my TV every day for 3 weeks, I was like, this is my chance to finally appreciate this thing. And I did. And I wouldn't say every game was absolutely ridiculous, but the tendency of an MLS game to just go off the rails in directions you weren't expecting is beautiful. And it reminded me of the sports that I love. And it really filled that void for me.
So we're like the food in the refrigerator after you haven't gone grocery shopping for 3 months, where you pop it open. No, I'm just messing with you.
You're like, sesame oil could be super good.
It is my professional responsibility to pay way too much attention to other sports. So
we're just messing with you, man.
Don't fit it on.
We're happy that you're here. We're happy that you see the ridiculousness. We're happy that you saw what the ridiculousness and absurdity that was Quake's Caps. Because I read your article,
oh my God.
And if that wasn't the most ridiculous game, if you didn't hype that game to an a level not ever seen before, I mean, they were literally celebrating with magic spray as smoke bombs. It was everything that I want this league to be all the time.
I did a ranking of my favorite games in the tournament, and one thing that I didn't realize until after I did the ranking was my top 2 games were both Whitecaps games, and one of them was a 4-3 game that just made no sense and had a huge comeback, and the other was a 0-0 game that made no sense. They were both equally unexplainable and beautiful, and I really appreciated it. And I'm probably going to watch a lot more MLS now. You know what? Levers from the back of the are good sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm glad I found that I still had that there.
We call it MLS After Dark sometimes. Some people call it just MLS is drunk. It's a tendency that we like to have. Outside of the Caps and San Jose, who are all-time greats, what was your favorite moment? What was the one that drew you in immediately from this tournament?
I started watching. I was just watching the first game, and I was excited to have sports back on. And I don't think I'd ever seen a game-winning goal in the 98th minute before. I was just like, the game didn't start off very exciting, and then, 90th minute just seems later than usual. I was like, I'm gonna keep on going.
The amount of stoppage time in this tournament, every game, it was surprising.
100th minute, man.
Yeah, you're used to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and it's like 8 minutes, 6 minutes every time. So, yeah, I mean, look, there were all those moments. Is there a team? Is there a player? Is there something that just
you got to be a
your
fan
imagination?
Now, right?
Yeah, what's the thing that was like, you know what, I'm going to stand this. If I see this or I'm talking about this, I'm going to pump it up.
Well, just the concept of MLS in general as a starter. I enjoyed seeing Orlando City go all the way. That was not expected. And I've I've played as Nani in video games before, and all of a sudden he's scoring 2 goals in a elimination game in Orlando with no one there. I do wish that, like, I feel like when I had watched MLS games in past, one of the things that really stood out to me was, seeing these huge off the walls fan sections just going nuts for 90 minutes. And like, I do feel like it is a bummer that the one time MLS was its own sport on TV all by itself, they weren't there to kind of show that off too. But the games did their job though.
How did you follow it? Did you find yourself dipping into what we like to call MLS Twitter? Or was this sort of like a solo, Jedi situation, you at home, just mainlining?
Well, I would just put on the games in the background while I was working, and then I'd tweet out, "Hey, is it normal for every MLS game to not make sense?" And then the diehards come out and be like, "Oh my God, you have no idea." like this is the reason we're into this sport. This is the reason we're into this league, and it's like you are hiding, and then when someone else acknowledges they are interested in this thing, you come out in full force to be like, join us.
Yeah.
So since during the tournament, were you pitching to other people to watch? What's the argument? What was the pitch to other people to get involved?
Or your desk to publish the piece?
I think it's just nothing that seems like it's going to happen. Even if the thing that you were expecting to happen ends up happening, you need to see the way that it happened. You know what I mean? Like, even if the team that was favored wins the game, or the team that's leading ends up winning, it's like that something weird happens on the way that you're gonna need to have seen live to be like, whoa, I was not expecting that tornado to drop me off in that location.
Casey's going to win the game, but you don't know Jonathan Lewis is going to score when they only have 9 guys, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, that was the idea of a team scoring a goal. That's the thing. That game that you mentioned, they had the team that had 9 players obviously lost. Which game was this again?
Colorado Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah. The team that had 9 players obviously lost the game, because it's hard to win a game with 9 players. But the way they lost was by scoring the equalizer and then giving up a goal in the 92nd minute that deflected off 3 guys and seemed totally undeserved. And I was just watching it like, man, they worked so hard and it was all for nothing. And I'm so glad I experienced that effort and eventual sadness, instead of just being like, oh, the team with 9 guys lost because they had 2 fewer players, and that's a pretty significant amount of players less to have than another team.
Rodger, did you watch the final? Did you have any rooting interest there? Did you feel anything for those teams?
I did. I was hoping that it just seemed right that Orlando should have won this event. And then that didn't happen, but that's the thing. It didn't make sense for Orlando to necessarily win the tournament, but something beautiful happened there along the way that you're glad you got to see.
It actually made more sense for Orlando to get there, have hope, and then have that hope extinguished in a painful manner.
There seems to be really a lot of that going around. having MLS players and teams doing something that looks hopeful and then having it fall apart in a tragic and beautiful way.
So what comes next, Rodger? Have we hooked you just a little bit? I mean, when NBA's back right now, we don't know about football. Let's be honest about that. What comes next for Rodger Sherman in Major League Soccer?
Yeah, so my main job is writing about college football. So congratulations on having a sport that exists.
That is nice.
So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to pay more attention to this thing. It definitely hooked me as a thing that, even if I haven't figured out which team I am most excited about. Like, you can watch a game between two teams that you don't care about and see a bad or wonderful thing happen to one of them. And I might not be ready for that level of emotional hurt that is actually caring about one of these teams. You're shaking your head, so I think that's accurate.
You're probably
safe. Although I would say just go Vancouver. They need a celebrity fan. They need a big fan.
He's trying to hurt you.
Look, I've got a Vancouver jersey.
He's trying to hurt you, Rodger. He's trying to hurt you.
It's not hurt because you don't have expectations. So it's all gravy. It's a club who came last in the West last year. They've made the playoffs like twice. We did a Mount Rushmore for them, and we basically had to find like the journeyman who played for a year for them and like debatably put them on the Mount Rushmore. So everything's good. There's no negatives when you're coming from that spot.
I actually have a friend who works for Nashville, so I watched their game last night. Is that becoming too trendy to
No, not at all.
You're one of us. You watched the midweek MLS game on ESPN+.
There we go.
One of us.
There we go. Yeah. I like our friend group was trying to explain how to find access to this channel. So that seems like an MLS tradition as well.
There you go.
All right, everybody, spam Rodger Sherman at Rodger with a D. Let him know who you should root for. Thank him for giving us a little shine, because sometimes we feel like some people don't notice us outside our little bubble. But Rodger, we appreciate your time, man. I appreciate your bedhead. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks for making sure there was something for us to watch. I'm glad that this was something that I was a fan of.
Let's dip back into the Contis, the official awards of Extra Time driven by Continental. We already did all the other ones on the last show. Let's just jump into our own personal weirdness. The David Accam MVP, no, not Sebastian Blanco, definitely not Nani. The guy that you would say nobody will talk about as an MVP, but probably is one in your heart and is your mind. Anybody got somebody who stands out who's just like, man, this guy, like an Eric Williamson type, might have been Cash Mueller, but he kind of fell off over the course of it?
I have one, Jan Gregush.
Yep.
Just because I love to watch him play, but he was a constant. Ozzy Alonso didn't play in every game. Ike Opara wasn't there. We had already talked about. He's a constant for Minnesota. They went to semifinal, right? I feel like my brain has melted over the last 10 seconds. They went to a semifinal. He's incredible on set piece service. He serves ball. I mean, if I could just watch him in a training session, just playing with the ball, it'd be epic. So yeah, that's my guy.
I'm actually going to second that one, because if you look at how Minnesota got to the semifinals, they were murder on set pieces. They were murder in transition. And Gregush was arguably the key to both. And he was a plus defensively as well. So I think David nailed it, though. I'm going to throw in Sergio Santos as well.
No, don't. I felt so smart. I was like, that's going to be mine, because that is truly in the David Accam MVP tradition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like almost there, but then he misses the PK and like kind of ruins the moment.
You would take him on Philly. Well, obviously Andre Blake, who's a legitimate MVP candidate, but over Montero?
Yeah, I think Montero wasn't as influential as I wanted him to be, and I think part of that is like he's playing the wrong position. I understand why they're playing Brendan Aronson as a 10, but I don't. And Brendan Aronson has moments where he looks like a 10, but he just doesn't find the ball enough. I think if they had switched and had Montero playing that position and Aronson either wide as a playmaking winger or wide as a shuttler in a 4-4-2 diamond, then Montero would have been the shout. But as it was, Santos is the one who justifies them playing that 4-4-2 in the first place. And he was, I thought, by and large, he was really, really good.
Yeah, that was a shout, because it was kind of like, wait, Sergio Santos? That's what you're going to say? That's why he's the David Accam MVP. How about the Ozzy Alonso D-mid of the tournament? Calen, who's that guy? Is it Diego Chara? I'm not sure it's someone from Orlando. I don't think Uri would get that shout from me.
Seba Mendes doesn't count because he's not a true 6, but I love Seba Mendes. So I'm going to say his name a few times now. Yeah. Seba Mendes played really well. When he does Seba Mendes things, I'm super excited.
You know what Seba Mendes is?
Seba Mendes things include really terrible turnovers.
For sure, but also include back heels while building out against pressure and then going 60 yards and making a great run into the box.
Seba Mendes is did you know I have children? I'm just
maybe
going to throw it out there. Just no context comes into the show. Yeah, guy, Calen, who's the one that stands out? Is it Diego?
Yeah, it's got to be Diego. Yeah, he was the Diego Chara. I mean, I feel like he's only getting his love later on in his career, or getting as much love as he deserves. So
he's a Picasso. Was Picasso the one who got respected after he was dead or later on?
Whoa, that's a little morbid.
Van Gogh.
That's a little morbid.
Van Gogh.
Diego.
He's Van Gogh.
Yeah. I said give it to him.
All right, it's his. Yamil Assad, fullback of the tournament.
We are, by the way, bordering on it's going to be the Diego Chara. Like, he's going to get it named after.
I know. It's almost there. Yeah,
I will fight that. Diego Chara has been awesome. Ozzy Alonso has been... Anyway.
Awesomer. Yamil Assad, fullback of the tournament. We've talked a lot about John Moutinho. Juan's got a lot of love on this one. Is anybody else in that conversation?
Yes.
I'm not sure there's anybody from the Timbers, although Duval had a nice final.
Ray Gotze to that list. I thought Gotze.
Go Ray.
You gotta go throw Ray in the mix. I had to put together my best 11, and I was pretty close. It was between Juan and Ray Gotze, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna add an extra midfielder, which is just like which is what happens to outside.
Yeah, that's the true MLS best 11 way right there. Like, well, we thought about it, but nah, we're not going to do it. Chase Gasper maybe could get a shot here.
Chase Gasper is who I was going to say, just because of the sauce. Like, who had any idea that Chase Gasper was going to be breaking guys' ankles on the ball like that? Like, Juan can't win this award because of what Chase Gasper did to him 1v1. He sat him down like it was an and one mixtape. That was incredible.
But isn't that just the Instagram age? Because I thought Juan actually gave Gasper a really tough time all game and actually had
all
the better
that matters
of him.
Is the clip.
But then it's like, he's getting it's on Twitter, it's on Instagram.
We're gonna get Heath Pierce on the show to talk about Chase Gasper, because there's no better expert than Heath when it comes to this type of moment.
Poor Danny Cruz. Danny Cruz is the opposite side of that one, just face buried in the turf. But
that's going to be your 8-minute video feature in 10 years. Is like, what happened after? What's it like being on the other side of the GIF? Just throwing in, not at this level, but a guy I love, Aaron Herrera. He had a good tournament. Good. Yeah. I think it was a moment for a lot of people to see what's been going on for a year or so since he's gotten to play that position full time, and hopefully see him on the national team going forward.
I like Aaron Herrera because he plays to me, and this is a compliment, like an a-hole. He seems like a guy that you would just like freaking hate playing against. Like, he's in your face, he's physical, but he's got enough going forward on the ball that he kind of makes up for that too. And by the way, to go back to Chase Gasper, he's the guy that like hits the dance floor and you're like, this guy can't dance. And then all of a sudden he's got the circle around him. That was that moment for Chase Gasper. He looks...
Kyle Martino for me. Oh my God. Have you guys ever been out with that guy?
No, wait. Justin,
he looks like he can dance because the way he plays, you should know he can dance.
But Justin Mapp is the ultimate example of this. Everyone was like, "Who is this guy?" And then Justin Mapp balls people out.
I was gonna say I've never seen.
No, I've never seen Justin Mapp dance.
Now we need to see this though. How about this one? The Dom Baji Irrational Stand.
New season of the movement. Watching soccer players dance. Physical movement.
Well, there you go. Let's have him send in selfies of it. Who you got? Who's your Dom Baji?
For me, there's two. Basically, it's anyone who's a possession midfielder because I would put 11 out there and just control the ball. So Gotti Kinda, who didn't have the final pass, and I don't even care, and Ja'Cory Hayes, who I've stand since the first time I met him before he came into this league.
It was nice to see him play well, right? Because like there's real talent there with Ja'Cory.
And he showed it in Dallas. There's 18 other guys in that midfield. And he was one of the guys whoever picked him up this offseason was getting a good pickup, and it worked out really well for Minnesota.
I'm going to abstain from this one because Dom Baji was not able to participate. So I'm going to say that Dom Baji should have won the Dom Baji Award.
Not based on playing time last night, Calen.
We'll get to that in just a second. Who you got, Doyle? Who's the guy just in the tournament just jumped out?
Well, it's not the irrational stand. It is the totally rational stand of Jonathan Lewis. Like, there's no reason he shouldn't be starting for Colorado. Every time he comes off the bench, like, he scores a goal, it seems like. And so the other wingers on that team should be chasing him for minutes, not the other way around. So, and hopefully that's what we'll see when the league starts up again.
This is a more rational stand too, but mine's going to be Mauricio Pineda from the Fire. Like, there's always been this feeling with them of like, why can't you get talent out of your academy? Why can't you get difference makers and usher players through. And he's a guy who waited at North Carolina and finally got there and then looked like the real deal for them. And I hope that he's a part of their team for a long time, sort of one of those anchors that you build around.
Extended his contract, right?
Get your money. Yep. Get your money, Mauricio. I like to hear that. Who is the American or Canadian player of the tournament? We often do this one.
You guys said in the pre-production meeting, but you roll it all into one. It's Ayo Akinola, Canadian and American, young guy, great tournament. Everyone wins.
Say his last name.
Akinola.
There you go.
Everyone wins.
I think that there's probably 3 real contenders. It's Abobasi, Williamson, and Ozzy Alonso. Minnesota don't make it as far as they do without Ozzy, and he's still a top 3 or 4 defensive midfielder in this league. But and
he's a citizen now. If people are confused about that,
he's been a citizen for a decade. So it's but
I thought it was okay. Maybe I'm wrong.
Anyway, and then Abobasi has once again beaten out expensive players for the starting role and has delivered. I mean, he had the title-winning assist. He had the go-ahead goal in the semifinal. He was, he had the equalizer against LAFC in the group stage. He has just consistently delivered. But Eric Williamson out of nowhere, out of T2 for the last 3 years, he wasn't even getting spot minutes with the Timbers, to come in and change the dynamic of that Timbers midfield the way he did, because Portland couldn't beat you with possession last year. Well, this year now, he's so confident getting the ball in between the lines, and he's a good passer, and he's really dynamic off the ball. He's changed up their shape. And so he has a really strong argument as well.
I think his ability to burst forward, I mean, the possession stuff you see, but he times and chooses his runs really well. And then just in the 50-50, man, he's so strong. Guys just seem to sort of bounce off of him. And we saw that against, was it Minnesota? I can't remember who they played in the semifinals, but there were a couple moments where it was guys established people who you're he wins the 50-50, and Williamson leaves the dude on the ground and is just steaming up field. Those were awesome moments to see. Congratulations to him for getting out there. It was
a pretty good moment for the player kids movement, by the way. Speaking of movement,
it was an awesome summer.
And you go through and you're from Frankie Amaya to Pineda to Brennan Aronson and McKenzie to Ayo Akinola to Memo Rodriguez. There were just so many players that I thought, especially in this tournament, got opportunities, and some that you expected and some that you didn't, but a lot of them took their chances really well. So congratulations to all of you for your continued work. And that was actually a really fun sort of subplot to the tournament.
Did you see the show last week when Charlie was going in on Mason Toye needing more playing time? I think Charlie is even more play your kids than I am, which is it's another real big victory for me. That's what
you have definitely influenced him strongly. He was pumped up.
One of the shames of the tournament was that we did not get to see the Dallas kids. And, we don't know how long we have to see Reggie Cannon and Paxton Pomykal in particular in Major League Soccer. But we saw them on Wednesday night. Phase 1 has begun. Nashville, Dallas, of course, missed the tournament because of those COVID-19 outbreaks that they went through. But they were back at Toyota Stadium on Wednesday. Reggie started. Paxton didn't. Nashville won their first game in MLS in the least aesthetically pleasing way possible. 1-0, David Accam. Speaking of David Accam, nice little deflection job.
King David, baby.
Very, very fitting for him to get the winner in that manner. What we make of the game? What do we make of the win for Nashville? How much does it matter? Also, some other news related to COVID. Steve Guppy, the assistant for Nashville, coached this game because Gary Smith had a positive test that was a false positive, second negative, not in time for departure. So he was not there, but he will be back on the sideline on Sunday, again, back in Frisco at Toyota Stadium. Nashville's first win. I mean, it's a weird one. It's history in a bizarre way. Not just because of how it happened, because of the circumstances under which it happened.
Who are you asking, Weeby?
I don't know. Whoever wants to talk about this game, because only those of us who love MLS unconditionally watched this with an open heart.
So it felt exactly like one of those early group stage round 1 games that we just had in the MLS's back tournament. These are two teams who haven't played in 5 months, and it looked a lot like that until about the 60th minute when everybody started slowly running out of gas and the game started to open up more and it became a lot more fun. Nashville went ultra conservative. They played Derek Jones, who I think is more of an 8 or even a 6, as their number 10. They moved Hani Mukhtar out onto the wing. It was a 4-3 or 4-2-3-1 that was kind of a 4-3-2-1 at times. Daniel Rios, this was probably his shot to prove that he should be the starting number 9 for this team, and he was decent. But I do expect Nashville is going to go out and maybe get a DP9 this window, and so that but from Nashville, they were good defensively. And that shouldn't be a surprise considering that they have veterans, guys who've played for the national team along that back line. They have Dax McCarty, who is still excellent at defensive midfield. Anibal Godoy looks, pretty spry as well. So there's a lot to like there from Nashville. From Dallas, it was the same Dallas from last year. Matt Hedges is pinging these balls into the pockets, breaking lines with pass after pass. And once Dallas got into the final third, their movements were too slow and too uncoordinated to break down a defense that was in good shape. And that didn't really start to change until, like I said, the 60th minute when tanks began to empty, and then Paxton Pomykal coming on changed just the level of dynamism on that field went up tenfold.
I do wonder for Dallas if I think there's a level of sharpness, right? The things they need to do are, as you said, movements that weren't together. But also, if just in a game like this and the shape they lined up in, if Barrios isn't that guy, because he's a guy who's at best in transition, and if Pomykal's healthy, they can move Ferreira in there. They also, it seems like, have made a signing at a true 10, or you just play a bigger striker for Hara to work off of. But it just felt like they didn't have any answers in that final third, and credit to Nashville for that. And Reggie Cannon said after the game, we weren't dangerous in the moments we created. He maybe had the best chance and he ended up firing it on goal. Not his fault, whatever it is. But it was a little frustrating, I think, for me, for Dallas, which is I like their shape. I like the ideas they had. In the final third, there was just not that level of creativity and not that level of direction to what they wanted to do.
Yeah, 157 days, I believe it was, between games for these teams, 5 months off. So rust was going to be the case. You mentioned Reggie Cannon, what he had to say after the game. Well, probably the biggest story of this game happened before the thing even kicked off. Nashville, FC Dallas, kneeling in solidarity, peaceful protest against police brutality and racial inequality. We've seen it throughout the MLS's back tournament. It's been awe-inspiring. The Black Players for Change have done an amazing job. And if you're not following them and seeing what they're putting out and the messaging that they have to get us all on the same page, go do it. There were, I think it's accurate to call it a smattering of boos. I can't tell you how many people did it. I can just tell you that some did. During that kneeling part, somebody threw something on the field. There was a USA chant that was started, and Reggie Cannon after the game didn't mince words.
I think it was disgusting. I think it was absolutely disgusting. You got fans booing you for people taking a stand for what they believe in when millions of other people support this cause, and we've discussed with every other team and the league what we're going to do, and we got fans booing us in our own stadium. How disgraceful is that? Honestly, for a lack of a better word, it pissed me off. We discussed that prior to what we were doing. We discussed it with Nashville. Everyone from Nashville was on board. Everyone across the league was on board with what we're going to do. We asked for no anthem because we don't feel it was right for the anthem to be played at this moment. They ignored our wishes. So we were going to kneel regardless if the anthem was played or not. But unfortunately, it was played during these times where we asked for an anthem not to be played, and it pissed me off that you can't even have support from your own fans in your own stadium. It's baffling to me. As a team, we try to give the best possible product on that field, and these last 6 months have been absolute hell for us. Absolute hell. Because we have to watch other people play soccer, and we're just sitting at home, unfortunately, contracting COVID from the unfortunate situations that we were put in. And an opportunity presented itself to play tonight, and unfortunately, we're mad and upset not to get the win. But I was pissed. Everyone around me was pissed. Ryan Hollingshead, the first thing he said to me after we got up off the knee, he said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for our fans." Because we had someone chanting USA when they don't understand what kneeling means. They don't understand why we're kneeling. They can't see the reason. They just think we're the ignorant ones. And it's incredibly frustrating. I'm sorry to have this tone, but you have to call it for what it is. I even knew when we decided to kneel, I knew it was going to happen. I had a feeling that should tell you guys something, that I knew we were gonna have some negative pushback from having a unified response over what's going on. That's the problem. That's a problem, and it hurts me because I love our fans. I love this club, and I want to see the support that the league has given us, that everyone has given us from our fans. And I love the people that came out tonight, but as soon as I heard that boo, I tried to play on, and I knew what was to expect. But we'll take it one day at a time. And again, we're unified in this response, and everyone stands together. Black, white, freaking orange. Everyone stands together in this.
That was really well said from Reggie Cannon, and we felt it was important to give you that full quote, all the context from Reggie. Apart from the message, which I have to applaud him for, and I agree with wholeheartedly, I think his ability to do that in that emotional state, to step up there and, wow, just to have that sort of eloquence and powerfulness in his statement, to do it in that moment, I think is really amazing for him. Shameful, disgraceful. That's what I'd say about the people that were booing. I hope people turned around and pointed them out and called them out. Because that's not my league, man. I'm somebody who loves Reggie Cannon's league, who loves what Reggie Cannon is talking about, who thinks those are the values that we should stand for. And I'm glad that he came out and said it and was brave in that moment. You guys have any thoughts about what happened last night?
I think the most important words there to me was unified response. This wasn't black players. This is all players, and it has to be all people. This has to be, look, from 1619 onwards, racism is not a black problem. It's something that white people in America have inflicted upon people of other races, and we have to stand up or take a knee and right some wrongs. So this is on white America. This is on people like us on this podcast to take the blinders off, to understand why people like Reggie are kneeling and why people like Ryan Hollingshead are kneeling and apologizing. And we have to change this country for the better. It's been 400 years of this. So bravo to Reggie Cannon, and I hope he knows he's not alone. Or I hope the FC Dallas players know that they're not alone, and I hope that more people who look like us are willing to put their necks out there and call out racism, call out intolerance, call out bigotry, call out sexism, call out all of that when it shows itself.
Yeah, big up to Reggie for standing up there. And I think, like, when you look at what the Black Players for Change have been talking about is saying, this is not your distraction. This is not your escape from daily life. And that those are the words that they used on the T-shirts, on the Solidarity T-shirts. This is why they're doing that. It's because people show up and they want to go to a game and watch Black players play, but then don't actually care about Black lives. And so when somebody is chanting at the pitch to the players, USA, USA, I think they know fully what they're chanting for. They're chanting for the USA that has created this problem and to preserve that. And so I wouldn't put this as a naive sort of expression from, an isolated group. This is still something that needs to be rooted out. And so I think for that this is the reason why, the players are doing this. And so I think these conversations need to continue. Good on Reggie. And then, the other part of it too is he said he asked for the anthem not to be played in this moment because he didn't feel it was right. So if we're going to listen, we should listen to the players in this position as well too. So as far as what they want to do and how they feel about it, that's up to them. But I just want to say, like, we need to listen to that part of the conversation too.
Yeah, I agree with everything you both said, and I would echo what Doyle said, which is, to me, what Reggie's saying, whoever it is in that stadium that's chanting that, if they're over the age of 11, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're probably set in their ways. It's everyone else. Out of the other message that's come out of the BBC, and everyone is silence is violence. It's us, anyone who stood there and didn't respond to those people, and make Reggie and his teammates feel supported in that moment and make those people feel unwelcome for their actions and the way they treated them. To me, what Reggie's message post game is for. And it's for all of us, because all of us are going to live in this society all the time. And it's not just at a sporting event. It's at your work. It's in your social settings. It's at the grocery store. It's on the street. And we all have to make sure that there's no, that guy is wrong, that woman's wrong. And we put our heads down and walk away, because we need action now as a society. And that's what the players are doing. They've stepped up. They've given us a channel to step up behind them. They are leading, but we need to follow.
I think that's well said. You have any thoughts? We always love to hear from the folks out there listening. 401-2060-MLS, extra time at MLSsoccer.com. Thank you, Reggie, for those strong words in that moment. Transfer fund continues here. We mentioned that number 10 for FC Dallas. It's Andres Riquarte from Independiente Medellin in Colombia. That's a market they know pretty well, and it's a market that a former Extra Time host was in, and he's a big Riquarte fan. Tell us.
Bobby Warshaw got in a random taxi, went to an Independiente Medellin game, and liked this guy. He said he was his number one in the game that he watched, and now FC Dallas signs. Coincidence? I think not. You're welcome.
New scout for FC Dallas, Bobby Warshaw, got on the line, made sure Lucci knew about this dude, went and got him. It's not official yet, but like he's doing press conferences in Medellin. Medellin is talking about him going to Dallas. They have a hashtag that's Gracias Riquarte. Like, this is happening. Something that probably won't happen is Mario Gotze to FC Cincinnati. This has been going around for a while now. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it should happen, personally. Too old, too many injury concerns.
He's
too
27.
Much. Yeah, but come on, he's an old 27. He's barely played in the last couple of years. I wouldn't do it, Doyle. That's what I'm telling you right now. Would you do it?
I think I'd put him through a medical first.
Okay,
but I would.
Would you do it
if he passed the medical? Absolutely. Okay. Yes, Mario Gotze. Yeah, he would be really good in MLS, unquestionably. And there is smoke here. There has been for a good long while. The stuff that was on Twitter last week that Weeby fell for about him being in Cincinnati getting a medical, that was not true. You did on Monday. You did on Mondays.
I didn't say, no, maybe.
That was put out by a Crew fan who was having fun, obviously. But like
MLS is back,
right? there has definitely been interest from what I have heard from reputable sources on both sides. Whether it happens or not is still up in the air.
Still wouldn't do it. I'd go somewhere else, but they do need a marquee signing in 2021. There is some more rumblings in Cincinnati. That's Tyler Blackett. He is center back / left back from Reading. Jaap Stam knows him real well because Jaap Stam was his manager at Reading. It looks like that one's probably going to happen based on all the sort of smoke indicating that there's fire. So it could be a nice little move for them. 26-year-old, was a Manchester United Academy player and then has gone around Europe on loan here. We mentioned Alex Muyl and Nashville, didn't we? We already talked about that one in the show. Yeah, well, I got a lot of feedback from Red Bulls fans who were pretty unhappy about that. Brian Rice kind of verbalizes it. Muyl was a local kid who cared about the club and gave his all every time. Quite good at pressing too. He's 24, entering the prime of his career, and he got whacked like the rest of them because Red Bulls have totally bungled this roster. He's talking about the Robles, Dax, BWP, Sasha, et cetera, et cetera. He says he's bleeping livid to get rid of all the players the fans like. Meanwhile, Rizza, Jorgensen, Egbo, international spots riding the bench. They did go sign the Red Bulls, though, Samuel Teta from Red Bull Salzburg, I'm sure off a recommendation from one Jesse Marsh. I don't know much about Samuel Teta. He did have 7 goals for Salzburg in this history-making season for them. Anybody have thoughts on that one? Or do we just move on and say, yeah, that's going to happen?
It just seems like he could be a center forward option, which is a position we've talked about a lot. And the Red Bulls like to do a thing where they have a hole and they dance around it by getting guys who like could play there but don't play there. He has played on the wing, but it seems like he is a center forward option and he's a first team player. The thing I'd say about Muyl though, and the fan is, to me, one of the big parts of what the academy system should be is you have 28 guys on a roster, right? Everyone talks about the DPs, but you have a full team. If you're going to have guys who are scrappy, backups, all that stuff, why not have someone who's associated to the region and associated to the club? Exactly what Alex Muyl was. Yeah, Red Bull fans were not super excited when he started in a playoff game. That's fair. But now they have to go out and sign a backup winger. why not have someone who's lived in that academy, who loves the club, who's from the area? And I think Red Bulls have done that in places. And I think other clubs are going to start doing that. But not every academy player is going to be Tyler Adams and then sold to Europe immediately, or a great player who stays in the club forever. But it seems like if you have this setup and you're bringing players through, why not build your roster deep with those types of guys?
So I agree with you, but I would argue that with the signing of Tete, who is on loan, but he's going to be more of a second forward than a lead the line 9. And the way the Red Bulls have played, it just doesn't seem like there's room for real wingers anymore. It seems like they're committed to this 4-4-2 or the 4-2-2-2.
The one that they were committed to 3 times in the last 4 years and have moved away from.
They try every year to make it happen, but they've played it every game so far in 2020. And now they're making signings that would seem to indicate that this is going to be a permanent shift finally to this formation that they've been trying on and off since 2016. And just there's no place for Alex Mawil with that. And then you have to free up the international roster slot to bring in a guy like Tete or a DP like Drew Yearwood from League One. So
my analysis is I saw Alex Mawil at Crate and Barrel in Soho last year, so I hope that he is able to move his things and maybe have a little more space in Nashville. It sounds like a positive to me.
There's definitely a Crate and Barrel in Nashville, so he's going to be okay, I think. Some other news here, rumors that Ariel Lassiter, who you remember with the Galaxy coming through their academy, and with a record-setting father, goal scorer at MLS, linked back to MLS with Houston Dynamo after a big year at Saprissa down in Costa Rica. Maybe that means Mauro Manotas is on the move. Then you would have Lassiter as well as Rodriguez as well. So, I don't know. We'll see. Rodriguez, what am I talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, who are you talking
about? I'm talking about the guy who replaced – I've been away a month and I'm blanking on Superman.
Ramirez. Christian
Ramirez.
Yeah, I was like referencing Angelo Rodriguez. That was awful. I'm so sorry about that.
John Arnold, who's a CONCACAF legend, says that Lassiter's a much better player. So don't think of the LA Galaxy 2 Lassiter, He's a new player and he's going to be good. So there you go.
Scored like 17 for Saprissa. We talked about Wang and Baum going to Ruben Kazan. Still not done. Still think that'd be a positive move for the Whitecaps. Get that money for a guy that doesn't seem to be impacting your squad that much. And again, LAFC fielding offers, says Tom Bogart. But we don't know if they will sell any of the many players that they have that would be interesting to other clubs in this transfer market. But we did get news from Sam Stejskal, then confirmed by the club. I believe it has been. Blaise Matuidi. We talked about DP versus TAM. This guy's a TAM player, baby. Inter Miami. Paul McDonough. A nice coup there. That leaves a DP spot open. That's what's up, Calen. We know you're the biggest Miami fan in this podcast.
Orlando fans give me a hard time for wearing this hat all tournament. It's quarantine hair, man. Come on. The big signing. I mean, especially to get a player of that quality at that price. I mean, that's incredible. And I think they really needed a little bit of, especially right in that middle of the midfield, a little bit of an upgrade, and where you have a nice MLS experience there and good players, but really bringing in someone like this, I think it's massive, and to be able to keep that spot for what we all assume will be a big number 9.
Yeah, that's risk mitigation.
We don't all assume that.
We don't all assume that.
Oh my
Should
gosh.
definitely not be a number 9.
I'm really not going to do this again with you, but Paul McDonough, we know he understands.
I just want it to be said. I got you, Doyle. I'm here for it.
Thank you, David.
Come on. 2 bald guys on one side of the screen yelling. It looked exactly the same in that moment.
What do
2
you call
bald guys
that?
with beards.
What do you call that? What do you call that?
True. I mean, you're the one cutting it down, not me. You could let it roll.
No, I don't want to end up looking like Calen. That's my big fear.
Anyway, Paul McDonough with a good job there, getting him on TAM, DP spot open. Flexibility is big in this league. Paul knows that. Last one here from the mailbag, 401-206-0MLS. What do we got, Dave? We got anything that's a little different that takes us in a different direction?
Brian from Cleveland, USL to Cleveland, says, every player in MLS is thrown into a player pool. He's giving you a scenario. Each team is doing a complete redraft from top to bottom. At what round would you draft a goalkeeper? Seems to me like there's an elite class, Blake, Hamid, Johnson, Fry, but then a little separation among the rest of the goalkeepers. So I guess it's how high do you value them and how much better is a few of these guys than everyone else.
Let's say this is like fantasy football. If you were in a draft league, to me, it feels like this is a kicker where like, you're going to get a guy who can produce for you. So you just wait around and like can you really bet on shutouts in this league? Like you can't. So I would wait around a little bit on this one. And probably I would be making sure my center backs are good. I'd be making sure I had a goal scorer and a 10 and probably literally everything before I went for a goalkeeper. Cause you can get somebody who can do the job. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like, I think that there are clearly some goalkeepers in this league who can be match winners, but it's not. At the same time, Stephen Fry's won 2 of the last 4 MLS Cups, so maybe I'm stupid. But I would.
You take Nico in that draft situation. You would grab Nico Ladero. You would take Raul Ruiz-Diaz. You'd take Jordan Morris. You would have taken Chad Marshall, et cetera. You would have taken Ozzy Alonso.
I can't imagine if this were to play out. I can't imagine taking a goalkeeper before like the 15th round at the very earliest. And
so you would go too deep at spots before
like running back stuff.
Yeah, well, I assume we would have to draft a coach as well. So,
Oh, that could be actually. This now sounds interesting. This now sounds like something we should definitely do. I also want to throw this out. I saw this on Twitter. I thought it was really like fun and could be awesome for us on the show. But I want to get your opinions to play off of. Let's say you're going to build a clone army. It's kind of similar here. You have one player, clone him 11 times. Who's the best player to do that to have success in Major League Soccer? Most people on the internet were saying like Paul Pogba. Who?
Dyron. Yeah.
Well, it's Andy Polo is who I'd go with now because the torch has been passed. But that's neither here nor there. Anything else, Dave? Or are we out of here?
Just a lot of craziness. Some rumors of Landon Donovan as head coach of Atlanta, and then he brings Jurgen Klinsmann as an assistant, but leaves him off to go into the playoffs.
I was there for that.
Yeah. So a bunch of stuff like that and other people. We've got some good questions we'll get into in the next show. Close out with Toronto Duck, who says David Accam, MVP 2020.
That will never go away.
Can't prove it wrong. Guys, leading the return of MLS in goal scoring. That's MVP stuff.
That's fair. That's fair. Sunday, another time, run it back. Dallas, Nashville at Toyota Stadium. 8:30 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus, MLS Live on DAZN in Canada. And then the games will start to come thick and fast. We'll be back on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Adios.